We spoke in chapter 1, James 1, verse 6, 7, and 8, and I think we can quickly read these verses again. Let him ask in faith, with no doubting. Let it not a man suppose that if you doubt, you will receive anything. So we have to ask with faith, with no doubting. To have faith in God and doubt at the same time is impossible. Often we are tormented by our own doubts. Too often we lose the answer of God because we do not believe that God can answer. Matthew 14, verse 31, explain clearly that sometimes we can have faith in God and at the same time doubt. Now, I said this is in the Bible. Sometimes we can have faith in God and at the same time doubt. Matthew 14, verse 31 says, Jesus stretched out his hand and caught him and said, O you of little faith, why did you doubt? Interesting enough, Jesus doesn't say, you with no faith, why are you doubting me? Jesus said, O you of little faith, why are you doubting? So we see that Peter had faith, and at the same time he was doubting. Peter doubted, but he has some faith. And sometimes we are like Peter. We believe God, we know that God can, and yet at the same time we doubt. This is why we do not receive. What have you asked of God? What have you prayed for? What have you been requesting through the throne of grace? What have you been waiting from God? Healing in your life? And yet at the same time say, well, you never know. God has said He's going to heal me, but let me double check. Let me get, another advice. Let me try to find some different kind of medication, some remedy to my situation. James continues and says, we do not receive because we ask amiss. Verse 4 says, you ask and do not receive because you ask amiss, that you may spend it on your pleasure. When the church receives the letter of James, there were some fight. And verse 1 and 2 says, where do wars and fight comes from among you? Do they not come from your desire for pleasure? You lust and do not have. You murder and covet and cannot obtain. You fight and war, yet you do not have because you do not ask. So there were problems, there were difficulties, and there were sin. They were pushed by evil desires. And there is also the idea of murder and lust. Nevertheless, it is a church. Often people think that the church is a perfect place. The church is for people who are perfect. But the church is not for people who are perfect. The church is far from being a perfect place. The church is a group of sinners saved by grace. And there will be situation, fights and war and dissension. And sometimes some people will pray, oh Lord, kill him. Save me from my situation and remove him from my life. Praying for bad things. Asking amiss. I'm not talking here about my grandmother used to watch, Tour de France, the big biking race in France in the summer. And I remember seeing my grandmother on her knees in front of the TV begging God for Bernard Hinault to win that étape of the Tour de France. And I was like, Grandma, do you really think that God will answer that prayer? I'm not talking about asking trivial things. Here, James says, you pray according to your lust and your evil desire, for your desire of pleasure. They are asking God to fulfill the desire for vengeance, envy, murder. Some could pray, Lord, you see Brother Bill, break his corrupted heart. Jesus, give my husband to be reasonable and not spend all my money. There was a sister who came to ask the pastor, Pastor, would you please pray that my husband would stop gambling? It's destroying our lives. It's really, and I've been praying God for so many years, but it seems that God is not hearing me. And the pastor is saying, I will pray for you. Let me just find out exactly how I should pray. And during the course of the discussion, the pastor finds out that sister wants her husband to stop gambling, not because he's just simply destroying their family, but because he's spending so much money, they cannot go on vacation. The desire of her heart was not for the salvation of her husband, but for a deserved vacation that had been stolen so many years because of that gambling problem in the life of her husband. To accuse someone in our prayer, saying, you know, Lord, you see the sin in the life of the pastor, change him, is not praying according to God. This will only bring fight, war, and dissension in the church. If you stand up in the church and you pray, Lord, you see that Brother Joe, you've seen what he has done to me, and I pray, Lord, that you will rebuke him, this is not a good example. This is not a good prayer. So a bad prayer is sometimes when we pray to fulfill our evil desires. Sometimes we do not receive because we ask too much. Some Christians, that Paul calls babies, want to go and cast out demons. And I've seen a young man being paralyzed, praying for someone who was possessed by an evil spirit. So we do not want to rush into the fight, but get ready. Lord, give me a church with 5,000 members. What if God has prepared you to be a pastor to 50? You ask for 5,000, you're never going to see 5,000. God knows my abilities. God knows that maybe I can only handle 50 people. If there was 500 people, I would be overwhelmed. God gave me 1 talent, and to someone else He gives 3 or 5 or 10 talents. So God knows my abilities. So God knows me, and He will give me according to my abilities. But if I ask God, give me 10 talents, I won't receive 10 talents. And I may be very disappointed. Some people pray, Lord, bless me in my finances, multiply my income. But God knows that when you have more money, you will just waste it on stupid things. And I don't say that an extra pair of shoes is a sin. I don't say that a good suit is a sin. But things that are not needed, that take off my possibility of blessing someone else, God will not give it to me. Some people do not know their capacity or even their limitation. And if we ask God to go from A to Z, we will never be able to do that, because spiritual life is a process that will take us from A to B, from B to C, and so forth. So sometimes we do not receive because we ask too much. Sometimes we do not receive because we limit God.